This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch for Monday, May 13th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, subpoena wars. Congressional Democrats issuing more than 20 subpoenas to the Trump administration. But Republicans say the Democrats are just playing politics. Vice President Mike Pence warns young Christians they will face serious challenges to their faith as they grow up in America. After a Pennsylvania lawmaker verbally assaults pro-life advocates, more than 1,000 show up to say they won't be silenced. And an historian lays out his reasons why he believes President Trump's political opponents may help him get reelected. All those stories and much more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We want to begin, though, with President Trump, his associates, and the administration facing nearly 24 investigations ranging on everything from the president's tax returns to his son. So far, the administration has fought off Congress's attempts to gain information. According to the Washington Post, congressional Democrats are slapping the Trump administration with nearly 20 investigations and at least 79 document requests. So far, the administration has fought off Congress's attempts to gain information. Yet Republicans say this is nothing more than political politics, of course, as usual.
The bottom line is we spent $35 million investigating the president. Their conclusion was there was no underlying crime. This whole kibitzing about, oh, well, maybe he obstructed justice to try to hide an investigation about something he didn't do. This is absurd, and the American people know it.
Amber Strong is following the developments for us right now from Washington, D.C. So, Amber, what sort of investigations and subpoenas are being launched at the administration?
There are quite a few, but we're going to hit the biggies. The first one, the DOJ is looking at a subpoena for the full unredacted Mueller report and any underlying evidence. That's on Wednesday. The Treasury Department is looking at a subpoena for President Trump's tax returns by Friday. And then the surprise was the Senate Intel Committee subpoena to Donald Trump Jr. The Senate Intel Committee is led by Republican Chair Richard Burr. And so people are really surprised by this. But the committee wants to see Donald Trump Jr. And kind of weigh his word against Michael Cohen's word when it comes to that now infamous Trump Tower meeting.
All right. So when we talk about Democrats and Republicans, how are both sides fighting?
So President Trump used executive privilege to kind of shut down this inquiry into the full unredacted Mueller report. President Trump is also using this as a talking point. We've seen him on the campaign trail already saying, look, this is just evidence that the Democrats don't want to work. They just want to investigate. On the flip side, you see Democrats like Congressman Adam Schiff saying, if the White House does not comply, then we're going to start fining them. Now, we're not sure exactly if he can do that or if the House can do that, but that is the threat right now, that they would fine them up to $20,000 for not complying with some of these requests.
All right. A busy day, a busy week indeed. Amber Strong, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ephraim.
Vice President Mike Pence told the graduating class of Liberty University Saturday they need to be ready for attacks on their Christian faith as they move into the world. In his commencement address, the vice president also said persecution of Christians around the world is growing more intense.
The truth is, we live in a time when the freedom of religion is under assault. Yesterday, I was informed by the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom that today, Christians suffer more persecution around the world than any other religion. In fact, the United Kingdom released a report just last week that said persecution of Christians worldwide is near genocide levels. Throughout most of American history, it's been pretty easy to call yourself Christian. It didn't even occur to people that you might be shunned or ridiculed for defending the teachings of the Bible. But things are different now. Some of the loudest voices for tolerance today have little tolerance for traditional Christian beliefs.
The vice president himself has come under attack for some of his Christian beliefs, including those on traditional marriage. A Connecticut man has been indicted on charges for threatening to kill President Trump and mailing menacing letters he claimed contained anthrax. Authorities say 51-year-old Gary Gravel sent letters addressed to Trump last year, as well as a synagogue and mosque. Some of the letters appeared to contain baby powder. He also made bomb threats at a number of locations. Gravel faces charges including conveying false information about an explosive and threats against the president. After vicious verbal attacks on pro-life advocates by a Pennsylvania lawmaker, more than 1,000 pro-lifers showed up at the location where it occurred to say they won't be silenced, nor give up fighting for the unborn. Our Paul Strand brings us this story.
Hundreds came here to protest a Pennsylvania state representative's recent verbal attacks against pro-life sidewalk counselors outside this Philadelphia abortion clinic. Brian Sims put out a video of himself blasting a woman who was merely praying outside the clinic.
An old white lady telling people what's right to do with their bodies. Shame on you. Shame. Shame. Shame on you. There's no faith that tells you you are right and everybody else is wrong.
Sims then basically offered a bounty for information on 3 teenage girls praying here.
A bunch of pseudo-Christian protesters who've been out here shaming young girls for being here. And so here's the deal. I've got $100 to anybody who will identify any of these 3.
The pro-life advocates who came to this clinic told CBN News they won't be intimidated or stopped because abortion must be fought.
We are not going to continue to be bullied as pro-lifers. I am sick of this idea that just because we are Christians, we cannot stand up and defend ourselves, that we cannot stand up and defend our unborn brothers and sisters.
We need to be able to be out there and offer alternatives to these women going in.
We are calling on State Representative Brian Sims and all those who dare to harass and violate the First Amendment rights of the constituents here in Philadelphia to step down.
Sims accuses the pro-lifers of targeting and hurting women. But one lady told CBN News from personal experience it actually hurts women if they're not warned about the physical and mental impact an abortion can have on them.
If anybody's ever had an abortion, including myself, so first of all, unless you've had one, I don't really think you have the right to talk about it because you don't know the experience. And quite frankly, most people who have wouldn't wish it on their worst enemy because the emotional aftermath never leaves you.
National pro-life leaders came here to call on Sims to stop trying to shame women and girls who are exercising their rights. They say the real shame is the 61 million lives lost since the Supreme Court decision legalizing abortion. That's why they and countless others are going to continue to pray and counsel outside here and other clinics all across the country. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from outside the Elizabeth Blackwell Planned Parenthood in Philadelphia.
Still ahead, he is a well-known historian and political analyst and not someone who might necessarily be considered a Donald Trump supporter. But now Victor Davis Hanson has written a new book called The Case for Trump, where how the president could win election once again. He's showing us. We got that interview coming up when we come back.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I Wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Historian and political analyst Victor Davis Hanson is not necessarily a Donald Trump supporter, but he's written a new book that makes the case. It is called The Case for Trump. He writes about how the president's political opponents gave Americans plenty of reasons to elect him. As Paul Strand now reports, the author says it could happen all over again.
Those who see Trump's election as some sort of fluke don't understand how disaffected millions of voters out here in middle America were with how the ruling class was ruling them and stifling the economy.
It might be stagnant because we were overregulated, we were discouraging energy production, and we were not letting the animal spirits out. In other words, we were telling people of talent and experience, you didn't build that, or now is not the time to profit, or I think at some point you made enough money.
Author Victor Hanson believes a growing number of voters thought President Obama personified the ruling class's attitudes.
They didn't like the talking down to, Americans can be lazy, Americans can be racist, the apology tour. It seems like when he went overseas, he talked about us as if he was not part of us. That bothered people.
Trump's Make America Great Again slogan gave them an opposite message. No more defeatism. We're going to start winning again.
China's not fated to run the world, and it's not going to bully you anymore, and you can't have a sovereign nation with open borders. And there's no such thing as deindustrialization. We're going to start building and manufacturing in these old red spelt cities.
It turned many non-voters and Democrat voters into Trump voters in states expected to provide Hillary Clinton the winning margin.
He was able, with this message and this delivery, to make 5 to 8 to 9 million people turn out to vote. They were the ones that gave him these narrow margins, 80,000, 100, that flipped all those states.
Trump detractors see his Twitter rants and political incorrectness as offensive, but his base seems to love it.
Trump is capable of saying anything, anywhere, anytime to anyone, and that bothered other people more than it did them. And they just wanted to let go. It was almost like cutting the leash on a pit bull and just go out and bite them.
Historian Hanson sees in the feisty Trump the reflection of Harry Truman, another much maligned man during his presidency, who stubbornly defied those around him in his efforts to make the world a better place.
Truman didn't listen to people. I mean, he said, the Russians can't be trusted. We got to have containment. And then the Roosevelt guys in the State Department were outraged. The Pentagon didn't want to desegregate the armed forces as rapidly. Dean Acheson, George Marshall said, you can't recognize Israel. Just don't do that. And the civil libertarians came, we can't have a CIA. And he did all of these things just as he pleased.
Hanson believes Trump's reforms and disruptive ways scare traditional Washington, or what some label the deep state.
They're permanent employees who have allegiance to nobody but themselves. And then it's predicated on always growing, so they tend to be more favorable to progressives and big government.
As the non-politician threatens this bureaucratic empire, Hanson says the other side plays legal hardball.
It's a Soviet style. We have the defendant. He's guilty. Just give us the crime now. And we've got to find the crime because we know Trump's. So they're going after him in a way they've never gone after another president.
Hanson sees this movement as a bigger threat to Trump than the actual opposition party. He believes the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez types are pushing Democrat candidates so far left they'll scare people away with policies like radical abortion, the Green New Deal, and socialism.
Those are not winning issues. And one of the questions in 2020 will be how adroitly will they back off from them?
If they don't, Hanson believes that they might reenact the left's utter defeat at the hands of Richard Nixon in 1972.
And they went the full McGovern crazy stuff, Woodstock Nation and all that. And people, it's the second biggest landslide in history.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Indiana.
Still ahead, she's probably a woman you've never heard of, but this daughter of sharecroppers is not only a member of the Air Force Hall of Fame, she's made a lasting impact on the world in which we live and the way we get around. We're going to show you how when we come back. Stay with us.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I Wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Well, you may not know her by name, but Gladys West has made a lasting impact on our world. Born in 1930 into a farming family in a community of Virginia sharecroppers, the military inducted West into the United States Air Force Hall of Fame last year. This woman's remarkable rise is a tribute to her hard work. And as you'll see in this next story, that hard work has forever changed the way we all get around.
Whether it's navigating jet airliners, providing directions to a new restaurant, or geotagging your social media pictures, few imagine the impact GPS would have on modern society, including 88-year-old Gladys West.
I never would have thought that I could sit in a car and, it says, turn left, turn right. No.
For 42 years, Gladys was employed by the U.S. Navy. As a mathematician, she would help lay the groundwork for many of the government's orbital satellite projects. That includes what became the Global Positioning System, or what we call GPS.
We didn't do all the GPS stuff that's for the car and all, we didn't actually do that, but what we did was got the accuracy of where things were located all around the world and stuff, and it's a database.
Born in 1930, Gladys grew up on her family's farm just south of Richmond, Virginia, where she learned the value of hard work. And that would pay off for Gladys, who wanted more than what life on a country farm could offer.
You could get a scholarship if you were the first or second in your high school graduating class. So right off, I was Johnny on the spot, doing all my work all the time.
She finished at the top of her high school class, earning her a full scholarship to what was then called Virginia State College, a historically black school in Petersburg, Virginia.
The teachers were encouraging me to major in math because they thought that I would be good.
Again, Gladys finished at the top of her class and went on to complete her master's. In 1956, she accepted a job at the Naval Support Facility in Dahlgren, Virginia. The space race was just taking off, and computers were the wave of the future.
It was really an excitement, The promises that they would teach us, how to communicate with this computer and all this stuff, So, knowing me, I was ready to, to work hard with it.
And work hard she did. With the success of the space program, NASA was beginning to place satellites into orbit. Gladys was tasked to help write and program code needed to process the enormous amount of data coming in.
You have a long equation and there are certain coefficients that go along with each term. You have to generate them, get them accurate and all. Our program encoded all those equations, and we checked them out by hand cases and all, and they were passed on to the next level.
The work was long and tedious. Every equation checked and rechecked for accuracy.
You didn't want to cause anybody else any holdups or any trouble about something that you had done that prevented them from making progress. So you want to have to make sure that they could depend on anything that you sent.
It was this tenacity and dedication that drew the attention of fellow mathematician Ira West. The two dated for 18 months before getting married in 1957.
She wasn't an easy catch, you know. Let me tell you, I had to work hard for that.
I always think of Ira, and I always tell him, I said, he played more than I did.
Meanwhile, the civil rights movement was sweeping the country. Gladys and Ira wanted to show their support, but government employees weren't allowed to participate in public demonstrations. So the couple decided the best way to help was to change perceptions and work even harder.
We just were pushing. We couldn't participate directly, but indirectly in the situation.
That was another reason why I felt that I always had to be my best, and I always had to be a role model.
In the years that followed, they both continued their work for the Navy on numerous projects. In 1978, Gladys received a commendation for her work and was promoted to project manager of the CSAT radar altimetry project, the first satellite that could collect data across the ocean's surface.
It was always interesting. We were working with people and doing something that was important and that's going to be used by the government and all. You got to make sure you're doing everything right because you're part of this big thing that's happening.
As she always had, Gladys stayed true to herself, striving to be defined by her competence and not by the color of her skin.
I think I was most happy when I got to the point that I could be independent and I could troubleshoot big programs and be a help to the analysts who had helped to generate the program. When I could talk to them, you know, it's sort of like be a part and understand. I think that was the best feeling I had.
Even after retiring in 1998, Gladys stayed busy, completing her PhD in philosophy and writing her memoirs. For all of her accomplishments, commendations, and recognition she has received over her career, Gladys understands there is only one who she can credit for the direction her life has taken.
I think everybody should have God in their lives so they understand. And I can just about see the complete circle. And I can go back and I can look and see what he did and where he put me and where all along. And I was thinking, it's just amazing that I didn't understand at the time exactly what was happening, but he was there and he was doing it.
Coming up, we're going to show you how CBN's Orphans Promise is providing a safe and hopeful place for at-risk children in Spain, including refugees and trafficking victims, through weekly children's clubs. All that story is coming up next. Stay with us.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to his children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Prophecy thousands of years old,
We were called to be a light to the world.
being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
by sharing their knowledge
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
and their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
CBN's Orphans Promise runs weekly children's clubs in Spain. The clubs provide a safe and hopeful place for at-risk children and their families, many of whom are refugees or trafficking victims. Partnering with the International Church of Madrid, the clubs run weekly. Hundreds of children are met with smiling faces, hugs, as well as the message of God's love from this Orphans Promise program. Now, you can find out more about what CBN is doing around the world by going to cbn.com/international. Time now for your Monday Motivation. And today, I leave you with this message. You are called to greatness. God's plan for your life is something the world needs. God is waiting now for you to answer the call. He knows that you're not qualified by the world's standards, but if He's called you, guess what? He's going to qualify you as well. With that word, make today a marvelous Monday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can find more on the issues you care most about always at cbnnews.com. You can also watch CBN News programs anytime throughout the day on the CBN News channel. We'd love to hear from you. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or reaching out on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a marvelous Monday. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody.